right. Hello, Myriad Health and Fitness. We are here today to talk a little bit about working out during and after pregnancy with a group of the staff here at Myriad Health and Fitness. I want to start by just saying a disclaimer that we are not medical professionals, and everything that we are saying is from our own experience, talking to our own professionals, and kind of doing some research on our own, and is our opinion. And our biggest piece of advice is always to talk to your own provider, and just try to give you guys a little perspective on what we all went through. So we'll go around here and start by introducing each of us, our relationship to Myriad, and a little bit about our pregnancy history. So I'm Anna. I have been a coach at Myriad since 2011, and I am currently 37 weeks pregnant with my first child.
I'm Holly. I do human resources and some personal training at Myriad. And so I have a daughter that was born in 2019 and a son that was born in 2020. So fairly close together pregnancies during the pandemic. So
Cool. Andra and Leslie.
I'm Andra. I have been a member of Myriad since 2015 and a coach since 2020. And I have an 8-year-old, 8.5, he'll tell you. And then I also have a 15-month-old today.
Leslie Gardner. I've been a member since 2011 and I started coaching in 2013. I have since you're doing the halves, a 6.5-year-old daughter and a 4.5-year-old daughter.
I'm Caitlin Beisco. I have been a member since 2013. I have been coaching since I don't know whenever someone asked me to do that. I have a daughter who's going to be 4 in May, and I am currently 24 weeks pregnant with my second child, but this is my third pregnancy, which is something that they will ask you at the doctor's office. I did miscarry my first pregnancy, so I would track this as, I guess, my third pregnancy for medical purposes.
So first and foremost, I think one of the biggest things to discuss is just starting out, is it even safe to work out while pregnant? And I'm going to throw this to Leslie and Andra to chat about a little bit. Tell us how safe it is to work out while pregnant.
Sure. It's definitely safe to work out while pregnant. So if you've never worked out a day in your life, then obviously starting to work out while you're pregnant is probably not the best idea. But if you are especially a regular at our gym doing things, then it's completely safe to continue working out. Obviously, you might need to adjust things as your pregnancy goes on and things like that, but definitely safe.
Yeah, I would even say that I had 2 different OBGYNs for both of my daughters, and they're both very aware of that I did CrossFit. The first doctor actually had experience trying it, so she was very familiar with it, and she was very okay with me continuing. She said, you just have to stop at a point where it gets uncomfortable for you. It will be uncomfortable for you before it is ever unsafe for the baby. So yes, I think it's important for a lot of other reasons to continue doing it while pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Holly, any benefits, mental or physical, to working out while pregnant that you experienced?
So my second pregnancy was during the pandemic, and it was crazy not being able to exercise in the same way that I could during the first was huge. During the first pregnancy, I felt like it was such a mood booster and just very normal part of my routine. It made, the postpartum period much easier. And then during my second pregnancy, we were all shut down and I was at home and the gym wasn't open. And so it definitely was not the same vibe, and I could tell a big difference, and it made coming back to working out a lot harder. So definitely doing it and being able to do it is great during.
Yeah. Caitlin, anything you want to add?
I think just the biggest piece for me is kind of from a community aspect. So this being my second pregnancy, right, working out through a lot of times for me, it's the motivation. It's just going there. And even if I'm scaling the entire workout, because I know at this point what works for my body, it's just being there and having kind of the social aspect. I've also found this pregnancy that I like just walking on my treadmill that I think you can see behind me in my office, because again, that kind of just being active helps with a lot of like, you know, my tailbone pain or like the extra kind of weird shifting of your body that happens. I think staying active really has helped me with that.
So that kind of takes us into, if we're like pretty much all on board with, it's a good thing to do safely, as long as you're being smart and listening to your body. When is a good time to tell your coaches?
So I would say as soon as you feel comfortable, I would recommend telling them, especially we're never going to judge you. We're not going to share it with other people unless, you know, there is a reason to, unless you have given us permission to. That's a conversation we can have. But during my first pregnancy, I actually was deadlifting when I was about 7 or 8 weeks along and started to experience some bleeding. I probably went a little bit heavier than I should have, not knowing any better. And then I got put on bed rest for the entire first trimester, no physical activity allowed. So had I have mentioned it to a coach sooner, I probably would have been told, you know, hey, maybe don't go so heavy, and would have been able to continue working out for those few weeks.
Mm-hmm. I can share from my perspective as a coach. I've definitely had a lot of women share with me early on in their pregnancy, and we will keep it. I always ask members if they do share early on, if they would like me to share with the rest of the staff, or if they want to tell every coach kind of as they see them. And it is something we will always keep to ourselves, and, you know, just have side conversations if there is something we want to look out for, or help you with adjusting. But I definitely encourage people to trust us, and that we will keep that to ourselves. Yeah. Anything to add, Leslie and Andra?
I would say, obviously, if you feel more comfortable telling certain coaches, because we've been there, been pregnant, that sort of thing, that's totally fine if you only want to tell some of us, and we can even help you along if you're like, I'm going to do this class, what should I do differently? And we could kind of give you advice before you even go. But just know that even our male coaches or coaches who have never been pregnant before, they will also keep it to themselves and respect you, respect your privacy.
You could also blame it on us though. If you're not comfortable, hey, I talked to Leslie and I'm having an issue and she told me to do this. And then that way you can keep it private if you're not comfortable with them knowing.
Yeah.
So.
Caitlin, anything to add with your perspective? Okay, beautiful. So we're working out while pregnant. Obviously, well, perhaps not obviously to everyone, but there are 3 trimesters, 3 phases of pregnancy that I have heard categorized in pretty classic ways of like first trimester, you're usually not showing, but you're maybe super fatigued. You're not feeling maybe your greatest. You're maybe experiencing morning sickness. Second trimester, you start to get your energy back. Third trimester, we start to get a little bit bigger, a little more uncomfortable, and the fatigue sets in again. So how do you deal with those different phases, and what were some things that came up for you in each that you want to discuss? We'll go Caitlin.
Well, I think the biggest thing is just understanding that that change is going to happen, right? Like something that you could do when you are 8 weeks pregnant is not the same thing that you're going to be able to do when you're 36 weeks pregnant. And I think one kind of consistent thing that we would all say and talk about is like, you just can't compare yourself to others. You cannot compare yourself to the person that is also working out. You know, Anna and I are both pregnant. She's like 12 weeks ahead of me or something. So like we can be feeling very different ways, doing very different things. You know, the internet is a great source of inspiration and information, but you know, you can, if your algorithm is like mine and you're pregnant, like the things that come up on Instagram can be very stressful. You're like, why is that woman doing that? Should I be doing that? What's happening? And, you know, and the biggest thing I think, you know, for 12 weeks, my biggest thing was just trying to make it in up until 12 weeks because I was extra tired. I was nauseous. But from a workout perspective, when I could get in, I was feeling kind of the same, right? So I was still running at that point. My personal hot take is that I, in my 2 pregnancies, have run and done like jump rope type stuff, box jumps, things like that up until 12 weeks. because that was what I was kind of comfortable with. And that was where I had had discussed with my doctor and felt comfortable doing. And then after that, mostly for pelvic floor purposes, just stopped doing that, stopped doing any type of like ab movement that involves crunching. And I think we have a sheet on this, Anna, right? Like we have kind of an overview, and I know that CrossFit also has some pretty good resources themselves of like substitutions. But, I think it really just depends. Now I'm kind of in that weird middle phase where this is my second pregnancy. So I'm getting a little bit bigger, a little bit quicker. And so I'm starting to just scale things a little bit differently, kind of more aggressively than I necessarily would have. But my goal is still mostly just to come in. I bike a lot, I chat a lot. But I think mentally the biggest thing is just knowing that it can be really difficult with weight gain or things like that. We're women for the most part. And that's kind of what we're dealing with, right? We have this like kind of mental body image issue apart from the physical issue. And so it's kind of just trying to manage those in a way that works for me and that is healthy for me. So.
Andrea and Leslie, you both had 2 pregnancies. And I know Andrea, especially, yours were farther apart and had some different fitness experience. So what were some things that were different for you, first pregnancy to second pregnancy, in terms of physical exercise?
So my first pregnancy, I did not work out while pregnant at all. So I didn't start until he was 8 months old. I started at Naptown then, Myriad. I started there. And so it was a completely different experience than my second one. I was much younger. That plays a role in it, your age, things like that. It was, and also there were not as many resources with my first one. So I had no idea actually that my stomach, I had a pretty severe diastasis, which my abs were separated, which everybody goes through when they have a pregnancy. You will have a diastasis in your core, but it's rehabbing that and getting it back together as strong as it can be to be able to do those movements. And no one told me that. And I had no idea until I started hearing other pregnant women about, their experience and having them coning and hearing all these words. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cone. I had no idea. And I'm like, and I had working out all this time and never knew that I had a problem. So then with my second one, I was a lot more cautious and second pregnancy and trying to just be aware of that, be cautious. I stopped, hanging from the rig a lot earlier, stopped doing, like Caitlin said, a lot of like crunching, things like that, a lot earlier than I think maybe some people do, just because I was so nervous about that coning, because it happened fairly quick, like with my second pregnancy. But yeah, now there's a lot more resources, a lot more help, I think, for people to know these things and be just prepared for it. But yeah. And then I will say too, like this also includes postpartum when we talk about all this. So I remember one day I was very far along in my pregnancy with my second, and there was somebody else in class that was postpartum coming back, and we were pretty much equal, like working out the same. And so remembering that, so it's all, and it's going to be a day-to-day thing, how you feel and how it all is.
Yeah, just even piggybacking off of that, I would argue that for me, working out postpartum was actually more difficult than at the end of my pregnancy.
Same.
Especially with my first, with Hadley, my first daughter, I did not scale I scaled very little. I did stuff pretty late, except running. I think I stopped running in box jumps, but I did double unders pretty late with her. I didn't have any issues with my pelvis and my pelvic floor. And it felt okay. So it was fine. Now I ended up having a C-section with her and recovered pretty quickly, like relatively for me, in my opinion. But then my second pregnancy on top of that, I started doing stuff like I stopped it very early on. So it just felt very different. Same person. They were 2 years apart, but still vastly different pregnancies. I think at the end of my second pregnancy, I was mostly sitting on the bike and doing kettlebell deadlifts. Like that was the majority of what I did. So, but then, yeah, I just want to, I think your doctors will be like, okay, 5-6 weeks, great. You're ready to get back after it. And I will tell you that hopefully it's not discouraging, but even like 4.5 years later, like there's still stuff that like, oh, this is maybe related to like, I didn't deal with that the way I should have right after pregnancy. So like having patience during your postpartum period and grace with yourself is super important, because that postpartum is like, it never ends. You're
It's
always
forever.
right. You're always
Mhm.
working out after pregnancy.
I'm very much still scaling and adjusting workouts with a 15-month-old baby. So
Mhm.
very much. So there's still a lot of things that I am not back to doing, and I won't be for a little while.
For sharing. So I can share from my perspective, from the mental side of things, a shift that really had to happen for me was I am a super competitive person. I've done CrossFit at the competitive level, weightlifting at the competitive level, and just really turning that off during pregnancy has been a challenge. There have been a handful of workouts here and there where I've finished and been like, like I maybe went a little bit hard on that one, and that's when movements kind of fell off for me. But I think like knowing that that's going to happen is helpful. Somewhere along the middle of my pregnancy, around 20 weeks, I started realizing like I really don't get that feeling of lying on the floor gasping for air after a workout anymore. And I didn't realize how much I was going to miss that. So that's been a little bit of a mental adjustment for me. So just something to consider if you are someone who likes that kind of feeling after a workout. Remember that you probably will have to step away from that for a little while, but it doesn't mean that you can't still be active. And I think knowing ahead of time that there will come a time where you have to turn down that intensity is just helpful preparation. Holly, we've mentioned a few times, people deciding like, I did double unders until this point. I stopped running at this point. What, from your perspectives, are things that kind of indicate to you that you should stop doing something?
Yeah, so definitely coning. Andrew mentioned coning earlier, and if you don't know what coning is, it's actually like you can look at your stomach and you start to see it really kind of making almost like a triangle, and you can see that happening with lots of movements. So like up on the rig, I even towards the end of my first pregnancy started seeing it while I was rowing, and so from then on only was on the bike. And so there are a lot of things where you can see it. Something else is the bar path. I probably used the barbell a little longer than I should have during my first pregnancy, because then I had to relearn some of the movements afterwards because I'd gotten used to bringing the bar out. And so thinking about that, once your stomach is really kind of in the way, it's probably better to switch to dumbbells. That way you're not retraining your brain how to lift. So things like that. Really, running generally, I feel like is very subjective to each individual. My first pregnancy, it didn't bother me. My second one, it did. So I think the baby also has some feelings about that. So yeah, I think all of those things, it's very individualized for you, what's going to feel good. But if you start to feel pain, if anything doesn't feel normal, you should probably start switching it up. If you're, as Caitlin mentioned, peeing while you're doing anything, probably not what you should be doing. Something people don't talk about, that's not really normal. But if that starts happening, like you should probably stop.
Mm-hmm. We've already kind of jumped into the postpartum a couple of times. Caitlin, what was your postpartum experience like with your first, and also other things you're kind of planning for this time around that might be different, or anything specific in the postpartum period?
Yeah, I think one thing that no one told me, or I just didn't understand, so if this is your first pregnancy, is that after you have the baby, you still look like you're like 7 months pregnant, right? Like it is still there. And in my mind, even though I believe myself to be quite an educated person, I had just not thought about that. I was just like, oh, it just like all comes out, like goodbye. It was really wishful thinking. Right. And so I think from a mental perspective, getting used to that, right, being okay with that. One of the things that people don't like to talk about, so I will talk about it, is like postpartum, right? Like you're bleeding, you're wearing an adult diaper, your boobs are doing weird things, maybe. I mean, there's just a lot happening to your body. And like, oh, by the way, also here's this baby that you have to care for full time. Like, here it is. And so there's just so much going on. And I think I did go back at 6 weeks. I went back to the gym. I started, I think, very light, kind of getting on the bike, just doing things. But for me, it was it was over a year, I would say, before I felt back to my like pre-pregnancy body, right? Whatever that meant. It was obviously a different body. My body had gone through a lot of changes, but it wasn't something, I think in my head, I had this, I envisioned that after 12 weeks, going back to work, I'd be like back in my pre-maternity clothes, ready to roll. And that just wasn't the case. I was breastfeeding, so I was holding a lot of extra weight for those reasons. There was just it was a lot of stress to me to return to work and still be doing these things. And, I was just holding on to a lot of extra weight, which isn't necessarily, it wasn't a bad thing. It got me through that period of time, but I think I wasn't mentally prepared for it. And so I think that that's one thing. And I was going to the gym consistently, but like, I needed the extra calories for breastfeeding. And there was just things that were happening that I hadn't fully anticipated. I thought that, to me, the pregnancy was supposed to be the hard part. And then postpartum was supposed to be, I hadn't really thought about it. And in reality, the pregnancy is actually the easier part. And the first kind of 6 weeks, 6 to 12 weeks to a year of postpartum are actually the hard part. And having a support system was very critical for me. And I think I will do much better this second time, just having that knowledge, just being able to be honest with myself. I think someone else will probably talk about this, but pelvic floor, recovery therapy, just acknowledgement, I think is very important. So, it's my hot take.
So I'm inspiring a lot of confidence in my coming few months.
Good luck.
Holly, Andra, or Leslie, anything further on like the postpartum period as far as you both kind of mentioned that longer time period, postpartum is forever, but what does that like immediate time frame look like? I know a lot of people, 6 weeks, you're good to go back into the gym. Is that the reality, or, what does that look like from your perspective?
Go ahead.
I'm actually going to piggyback off of something that Caitlin said, that because everyone's like, oh, breastfeed and you're going to like, the weight is going to come off, which is like, yes, biggest eye roll ever. Initially, yes, like because the baby was no longer there and I was like more active than just sitting and breastfeeding for 5 weeks. My body too also held on to extra fat. I remember I stopped breastfeeding. Was it my second? I think. And people noticed, like, I had people at the gym say things. And I just was very candid. I said, I just stopped breastfeeding. Like, I'm just done. Like, we're done breastfeeding. And they were like, oh, I thought you would thin out. Like, I thought you would be, and it's just like, no, my body actually held on to the extra fat. It was a male. Oh, it's fine. He was just
not fine.
It was fine. It wasn't offended because he was trying to learn and be educated. But I think the narratives that you hear may apply to you, but they may not. And I think like this is a great, someone else's example and experience may be different than ours. And people can relate to that. Women can relate to that. So I think that's really important. Just knowing it's not the same. Again, even with postpartum. I don't really remember postpartum with my first because I was in such good shape. Before, it was in the best shape of my life when I got pregnant. And so it was a little bit easier to kind of come back from that, to be honest. The second, like I said, I still feel like you said a year. I feel like it's taken me, like it took 3 years for me to feel like, oh yeah, okay. Like we remember how to do fitness. Mm-hmm. So I think like things are going to feel different, and what's going to work for you too, like your life situation. It's not just like physically, I have this body and I gave birth, but it's like your job, your home life, just like personal, your emotions, and kind of like the stress level that you have. How much sleep are you getting? My first was a terrible sleeper. My second started sleeping long stretches of time after 2 months. So I think just realizing all of that plays into the performance that you have in the gym. And you are amazing because you just gave birth. So like, just, I don't know, just step back for a second and realize no amount of muscle ups or handstand push-ups are going to compare to however you gave birth. And I've given birth C-section and vaginally. So they're both amazing. Women are amazing. Your bodies are amazing. And I think just like stepping back and having some gratitude for that gives some perspective to everything. So.
Absolutely. I'm going to agree with all of that. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be different for each person, each pregnancy, all of that. I have lost my train of thought now. I don't think I have anything else to add. Oh, actually, sorry. I had one thing that I was going to say that I forgot about. So we talked about coming back like at 6 weeks or whenever you do that can look different for each person too. So there's a lot of things that we can teach you or that you can learn about, even just like breathing and bracing and core things like that, where it has nothing to do with actually doing a sit-up or holding a hollow hold or something like that, but it's more about breathing through your core, different things like that you can do pretty much right away. And there's lots of stuff that you can start doing, start to walk, start to do things like that. It's not like you have to just completely stop doing everything right from the beginning. And so that's what I did. And that's what I recommend, is like starting just even things like that, because your body is going to feel wild after you have a baby. It's kind of scary to even think about what it feels like to squat or to lift a heavy weight, or even just an air squat. Honestly, like anything feels very strange because you're like, it's also new. Your body it's a new body to you. So yeah, so just doing those really simple movements, just actually physically moving your body in very simple ways would be my like advice to you in the very, very beginning, and just feeling everything out.
Yes, I want to hop on something Caitlin and Leslie both kind of alluded to, is like what's happening with your physical body. And this is more just like a PSA. If you are a non-pregnant person, I feel like we're better as a society about not commenting as much on people's bodies, but there's something about knowing that someone is carrying a human that makes people feel like they can hop in and say things. So general piece of advice, don't comment on someone's body. I'm 37 weeks pregnant right now. And if people start asking me left and right, like, man, that baby looks like it's about to come any day now, or are you carrying twins? Like, it's just not going to feel good. So keeping those things to yourself. And if you are a pregnant person, know that those things may happen. And also, don't be afraid to tell someone it's not okay to say those things, because it's not cool. Your body's doing what it needs to do to grow a person. And that's amazing. And no one needs to be commenting on that. So, Holly, anything you want to hop in and add here?
I think the biggest thing I would add is in the immediate postpartum recovery period, don't be afraid to scale things down just like you did while you were pregnant. I remember the first workout I came back, I was in my mind like, oh, I don't know, like, do I try to do this workout as normal? And I remember the coach being like, you want to honestly like scale it down to the bare basics. And it just felt weird to move my body because my organs were truly in a different place than they used to be. And so like, don't be afraid to scale it all back and then move up slowly. Don't feel like you need to jump back to where you were before pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have one more hot take, sorry.
Yeah.
Because Holly just brought it up. I think that postpartum is an excellent way to relearn and redefine the basics. So like, having that barbell at 0, if you're always like, yeah, my clean, it's got like this weird thing, but I've been doing like 135 pounds, and it's like, maybe we take this period of time to just go back and like really define and fix those. I mean, I can use that clean example because that was me. I started personal training with Richie, I think maybe when my daughter was 9 or 10 months old. So it was kind of part of my recovery, but what I was doing was essentially relearning the basics of that thing while I was still in like what I would consider like a vulnerable state, both mentally and physically. But and it took me a while to get there, to be like, it is okay to be doing 0 weight when I was, my max clean and jerk was 185 pounds. Like, it's okay to be doing this at 45 pounds and learning the right thing, because now, 4 years later in a second pregnancy, like I'm still using the things that he taught me when I was learning immediately postpartum.
Lovely. We'll get to kind of wrapping up here, and just kind of going around, having everyone share any last piece of advice. It might be echoing some of what we've already talked about, or favorite resources that you've utilized during pregnancy or postpartum. And Caitlin, I know you need to leave, so we can start with you.
Yes, the only other thing that I was going to just say kind of that I didn't say earlier was in that like immediate, like when you are giving birth, like during the period of time you were at the hospital, just knowing your own body and not being afraid to advocate for yourself. I'm sure, we talk about this all the time as a society, but Indiana's maternal health rate, especially for women of color, is like, it's not good, right? The maternal mortality rate, and I had an experience where I was hemorrhaging and I kept saying something is wrong, something is wrong, something is wrong. And it took a very long time to get the assistance that I needed. And Jared, my partner, and I both had to keep saying something is wrong to finally get attention. And I knew that something was wrong, right? And I kept saying it, but they were trying to tell me that something was not wrong. And I was allowing them to kind of, shape my opinion. So at the end of the day, like it is your body and you are the only one that's going to be able to keep advocating for yourself. And so if you think something is wrong, like to just keep saying it until finally someone listens to you, is kind of one thing that I learned. And, now the second pregnancy, they were like, oh, we understood this happened in the first pregnancy. Now we know how to deal with it in the second pregnancy, which is great. But it was still a pretty traumatic experience the first time. And so just being aware that if, it's not just normal to feel certain ways after pregnancy, right? You're in the hospital for a reason. Possibly, maybe you're not, but if you're in the hospital, making sure that you're looking for those resources and making sure that like, if you want to be seen by a doctor, you are being seen by a doctor and not quieting down until that has occurred. And then the other thing, my favorite resource is women that I trust who have had children, right? And so any resource that I look at that aims to tell you that, oh, this is the answer. The answer is this, it's X. That is not correct. There are so many different answers to every single question related to pregnancy. So my personal resource is, my friends, my colleagues, my acquaintances. I'll really ask anyone about pregnancy, but people who I know are going to give me an honest answer, about their own experience, and that have the wherewithal and the foresight to say, this is my experience. It went like X. But I think it's a really good way to, have those open discussions with people and learn a lot about what you can do, what you can't do, and just kind of formulate your own opinion based on the people that you trust. And if you don't have people like that in your life, welcome to the 5 of us. I think you could call any of us and we would give you our personal hot takes on pregnancy.
100%. Holly, you want to hop in?
So I would just say to not be afraid to take it easy and give yourself grace, to recognize that, this is a short span of time in your life, and that at the end of the day, like it is a great opportunity to relearn some movements, to retrain your mind, to really just enjoy exercise for exercise. And it doesn't have to be a competition, and just really take it slow and give your body what it needs. And if something doesn't feel good, to pause and think about it. And that you can always go back and relearn things or do them again at a later point in time. But definitely relying on the people around you, different resources. As Caitlin mentioned, I agree. My favorite thing is asking friends and people who I know and trust their opinions on their experiences. I found a few good resources I like on social media. So Expecting and Empowered is one, and they have a lot of good ways to just move your body. Brianna Battles, who I'm sure Andrew will probably mention a little bit, has some great tips as well. So
beautiful. For me, I have not experienced birth yet, but I think one of the biggest things that I would advise is not necessarily having expectations of what's going to happen. I think in my head, I was really thought, of course I'm going to keep running for X number of weeks. And I ended up having to stop like deciding to stop that much sooner than I expected. I've also had some blood pressure issues that we've been watching through my last trimester, and that has made me slow down a little bit in the gym, use a heart rate monitor just to keep myself from overexerting. And again, it's been hard for me to step back to that degree, but for the, the circumstance that I'm in, that has been the best thing to do. Another thing that I have done was I started pelvic floor therapy in this last trimester as well, really just getting a sense of knowing what is kind of going on down there as I prepare for birth. And that's been helpful with some pain that I've experienced in my pelvis and hips. And then also having a bit of a baseline in a relationship with someone for the postpartum period. So if you have the access to pelvic floor therapy, something I would definitely recommend. And it also has helped me with some of what Caitlin was mentioning of knowing how to advocate for myself, knowing just more about birth generally, having a little bit better expectation of what all the possibilities are. I've also been a nut job about listening to birth stories. I listen to the Birth Hour podcast a lot, just to hear a lot of different people talk about it, because it can go a million different ways. And you can have the best laid plans in the world, and your baby is going to have their own plan. So that's what's helped me. Andrea and Leslie, how about you guys?
So I'm probably just going to say a lot of the same things that have already been said, but like honestly, just like Anna said, your birth plan can derail, and become completely different than what you expected. So can your fitness plan while being pregnant or postpartum. So just knowing that and being prepared, and like everybody said, like knowing that maybe you have these intentions of running until you're 20 weeks pregnant, but then it feels terrible at 12 and you have to stop. So just being okay with that. Do things that make you feel good through your pregnancy. Don't push through any sort of movement that feels uncomfortable, that hurts, obviously. Like Holly said, she stole the words right out of my mouth, that it's such a short period of time in the grand scheme of your life. It might feel like a long time. It does feel like a long time when you're going through it, but when you look back at it, it's so quick, and you have the rest of your life to get back to where you were, and or just where you want to be, the new you, the new mom person that you are. And just like Anna said, I also did pelvic floor physical therapy, which was super helpful. So I highly recommend that to anybody who is pregnant and or postpartum. You can still do it now, even postpartum. If you had a baby 10 years ago, you could still go. In fact, men could go. It doesn't matter. Like everybody can use some pelvic floor therapy. So I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's so helpful just to understand your body and what's going on down there. And then as far as my resources go, obviously, just like everybody said, friends, all the people that I know, like Leslie was one of my biggest resources while pregnant with my second. She is a great person to talk to. Lots of people in the gym who have done it before. And then as far as like Holly said on social media, Brianna Battles is definitely my favorite. My go-to pregnant and postpartum athletes is her Instagram page, and she has a lot of really great stuff out there that I would definitely take a look at. Leslie?
I'm gonna quote the beloved mermaid Shannon Brosavan. She would always say, you're PRing at life, you don't need to PR in the gym. So I always think about that. So like, you are growing a human plus an organ to sustain it. Your insides are literally rearranging themselves, and you're going to bring this human into the world. That's amazing. And so like that should have priority. And I guess for me, like the mentality piece was so hard, Anna. Like I can relate to that. Like you're not going to be like, gasping for air. If you are, it's not going to be the same as when like I do a hard AMRAP or something. But I started looking at birth as like the most important workout that I was now training for. So I wasn't trying to like beat people on the whiteboard. I was trying to get ready to have my daughters. So like that mind shift really helped me personally. I'm going to throw something else out there. It might be controversial. I'll take the fall if it is, but my pelvis during my second pregnancy hurt so, like my tailbone hurt so bad because it was like doing this. It hurt to stand, it hurt to sit, like literally I was so uncomfortable. So I got adjusted during my second pregnancy from a chiropractor. I went to a special chiropractor, like she specializes in pregnancy and postpartum chiropractic care. So that is a great resource. I can get that to you. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can get that if anyone is interested. It was just the only thing that helped relieve the pressure that I was feeling. And then even postpartum, I saw her. And then once I felt like my body kind of got back to more of a like sports state, then I was like, you know what, like I need a little more pressure than what you were providing. So I went back to like my normal chiropractor. So that was a great resource for me. Not everyone is into it, gets benefit from it, but if you, it might be for you. I don't have any specific resources. Again, like everything that's been mentioned, I kind of dabbled in. I read a lot of education because even the courses that are required, they don't tell you much. They don't teach you much. So if you, unfortunately, like Caitlin kind of alluded to, if you want to learn, if you want to understand, you have to advocate for yourself. I educated myself. I read a lot. Positive birth stories were huge for me. So, because birth kind of freaked me out the first time around. And then I was determined to have a very different birth. So it was very important to me to have like to read successful birth stories to help with my mindset. So, it can be scary to think about, but if that's where you're at, please reach out. I would love to talk to you because I feel like that was the big hurdle for me, was just like overcoming the fear of how things were going to go, since my first pregnancy and birth was literally the opposite of what I thought I wanted. So.
Well, beautiful. Thank you all for sharing so much. We're going to wrap this up, but I hope that this helps some of you out there. Again, all of us, I think, are very willing to talk to you about our own experiences, and you've got this. Pregnancy is amazing. You're amazing. Go team.